Hello, welcome to episode 106 in this series where I am programming a game for the original NES from scratch. I'm back from a 2-week hiatus where I was partially on vacation and partially away from due to work. So I'm glad to be back. Yesterday I was looking at what exactly we kind of left off with from the last time, and so we have a couple things we need to address. One is the fact that we are not updating attributes here, so the scrolling populates some of the tiles correctly, but does not populate the attribute colors correctly. And then also we are, if we just fast forward through all of this, we are only updating the background with a single tile, not the metatile, and I think I wanted to be able to do a metatile update. So those are the two sort of immediate things I need to get fixed up. Hopefully we'll get a working title screen here soon enough, and start laying out some actual levels and how those are going to work. Get some music written. I'll be doing that. I don't know how exactly we're going to incorporate that into the game. Part of me wants to do the programming for the sound myself, and some of me is like, that's a lot of work, and depending on the complexity of the kind of music I want to incorporate, that may not be a good idea. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. There's always GG Sound by Gradual Games, Derek from Gradual Games, which is a really good option, and it's open source. There's Famitone and Pentley, I think, is the other one that's used pretty widely, but there are options. So we have the ability to take advantage of some things that are there already, so we wouldn't have to. But since this is also sort of an educational series, I do want to at least touch on sound in terms of how sound works in the NES and make it play some bleeps and bloops before going with a sound engine, if that's what we end up doing. So that's that. Let's see, what else? We passed 900 subscribers on YouTube, which is totally insane to me. Actually, we're at 927 right now. And, you know, not that it's that important. I'd be happy with, 50 people satisfied with the content that I'm doing, but that many people have subscribed and are interested in this is just really so cool. So thanks for everybody who's subscribed and who's watching as I make Cerulean Ascension. I hope you're getting something out of it, or if not this part of the series, at least the 0 pages, which brings me to the last part of sort of the intro. 0 pages, episode 5. I'll be showing how backgrounds work and doing a little something just to move the sprite around as we also update the background, just to kind of cover that topic in more detail. Not that we haven't covered it here extensively, because backgrounds and attributes are something we've done a lot of, but in the 0 page format, it's obviously going to be broken down in more detail. So hopefully that won't take as long as episode 4 took to get out there, and it won't be quite as long as episode 4 to demonstrate that, because we'll be starting with the same code that we left off with in episode 4 for episode 5. So we'll save ourselves some time there, and that episode will likely be a lot shorter. But yeah, and of course we'll be returning to live streaming, but not Thursday night. We'll do that Friday night. Thursday night is my 10-year wedding anniversary with my wife, of course, and so we will be spending some time together, and so the live stream will be Friday. Enough of that. Let's get going here. So in the previous episodes, we had made it so that we could switch from a level map to a repeat scrolling mode. Now, at some point we have to switch back from scrolling to loading a map, and basically what I'd like to do for testing purposes is actually just have it kind of switch back and forth between the map and then scrolling, and then map and then scrolling, and then we'll start implementing levels. One of the things that I was contemplating in this game is that I know NES games in general are sort of regarded as extremely challenging in that, almost unfair sort of way for some people who are not used to games of that era. Especially now, a lot more games are designed to be a little bit gentler. I mean, there are exceptions to that, obviously. And I don't have any problem with games that are hard. I don't have any problem with games that are not hard as long as the game itself is interesting. So there are all sorts of examples of games that are not hard and are boring, and also games that are not hard but are also interesting and fun to play. I want to basically make Cerulean Ascension hard, but not punishing. So I want it to be difficult to play and difficult to get through, but I don't necessarily want to punish the player for making a mistake in the sense that, after 3 lives they have to start over. Or after 2 lives they have to start over and they don't get continues, or they only have a certain number of continues. Now, that may change, that idea may change as we progress down building the levels and building the game and determining if we want to make the, if the game needs to be harder or easier. But at least at this point, my thinking is I want the game to allow you to continue on the level that you were on when you died. But the trade-off will be that the levels will be difficult. So how that actually translates into game design, we will figure that out. And again, not necessarily unfairly difficult. I think I mentioned this in one of the previous streams. E.C. Myers was playing, is it Dragon Spirit for the NES? Is that what it's called? Yeah, Dragon Spirit for the NES. And I know that's not, I'm pretty sure that's not considered a hard game. But I liked some of the things that it did in terms of how attacks were sort of telegraphed, and you got little hints as you went to what's going on. And the way to make that challenging is to kind of make it both a mixture of things you can memorize and things that, if you're not familiar with the game, you can sort of train the user, the player, to see something and expect a result when they see that in a non-challenging situation, and then sort of incorporate that into ever increasingly more challenging situations. And Nintendo, for all their faults at times, is actually good at doing that. There are games where they introduce a concept in the game design that's extremely simple but interesting, and then they iterate upon that idea over and over and over again. Increasingly more difficulty is added, and then the idea is mixed in with other ideas that are complementary to make the challenge even that much harder, but in a fair way that you've been prepared for that challenge. So that's the thinking. Will I be able to execute on that? I hope so. And I hope to do that rather soon. So let's look at where we're at here. So we were looking at the game in the emulator, and we saw that we get to the end of the map. I should probably open tiled here and show you guys the map directly, just in case you forgot. So here's the map, and you can see it's basically one screen, right? We get through the one screen here. We have the barrier here that the ship can navigate around, and then we have the the barrier of the wall at the end of the screen that marks the transition to the repeating tiles. Now that was the other thing that it seems like once we get past, well, obviously once we get past the map, then the collisions are disabled because we're no longer reading from the map file. But the other thing is that we're not using metatiles, we are using individual tiles. So I want to actually fix that part first, because I think that's probably a more interesting thing to resolve. So right now, I believe what we're doing is we're just writing a hard-coded background value of, let's say 61. That's probably what we're writing in. I'd like to write the metatile for this sort of rectangular, rounded rectangular metatile in. And that's going to be challenging because that means we have to remember what we wrote on one row and then switch to another. It shouldn't be too hard. That's probably all we'll do for tonight, just to kind of keep this short, kind of getting back into the swing of things. And Friday night's stream can be a little bit longer. And we can mess around with attributes then. So let's see, where are we populating the tiles? So, okay, so this is just hard-coded. Yeah, so this is storing 61. Actually, is that the hex value? Oh, it is a hex value. Okay, so let's start with switching that to 59 instead of 61. To make sure nothing goofy is going on and we're actually looking at what we think we're looking at. I just want to avoid those bullets. And what we should get when we transition here is we should see... Okay, and let's just take a look here. So we're getting an extra row of water before we get... So that's actually good, because that gives us a hint that we have a problem with the way we're loading the tiles when we start. So the first thing we got to do is fix that. We got to fix that it's not loading into the right spot on the screen. All right, so... Feels like forever that I've looked at this, just because it has been pretty long, what with being away on vacation and then having to be in Chicago for a week. But it was good. It was good to be away. We had a good time, and feeling refreshed. Never be afraid to take vacation if you can. I used to work a ton and never take vacation. In fact, I would routinely just let my vacation days accumulate and expire, or I don't remember what the proper terminology there is, but basically I would not take my vacation days, and then what would happen is that I'd get pretty burned out feeling. I would feel just tired and awful, and yeah, and just not be as productive as I should. And I have learned that vacation is important. It doesn't seem like it should be. If you're someone who likes the work you're doing and likes where you're working or whatever it is that you're doing. But it's important to think about other things for a little while. There we go. Okay, so that change that I had put in a change here where I was subtracting a row from the screen memory address before starting to populate this data, and that was wrong. I was supposed to just start at the actual location in screen mem. That was currently set, so that's been fixed. So now, like I said, what the problem we're facing at this point is that we are populating just this value of the metatile. Well, it's not even the metatile, right? We're just hard coding the tile value here, 59, into the screen memory. We are not using a metatile per se, which would be this thing, and loading that in, starting with this bottom corner on the left and repeating that a bunch of times until we fill the screen, and then using the top part of the metatile. So, all right, how will we do that? So right now, we're going to do a couple things. I think that is considered metatile 1. That would be the first thing, is that I believe that that's considered metatile 1. So let's start with first setting the metatile that we should be loading. Now, obviously, we want to be able to do this from data eventually, but right now we're just getting this code working. So, so we're going to store 1 into BGTile, and then instead of doing this, what we really want to do is look up the beginning of that metatile, and we would need to use, I think we have metatile lookup, yeah. So load X with BGTile, and then load a metatile lookup X. I believe that's right. Let's take a look here. Yeah, so here we're doing what is it? This is when we load the level. Yeah, so when we load the level, we're loading a lookup array that maps the value of the metatile in the map itself. So let's say we have this tile reused in 6 different maps, right? Which hopefully we will, because that means that we will be reusing our graphics storage on the cartridge well. So let's say that's what we're doing, right? Well, in this map, because there are only a few metatiles that are referenced, this might be metatile 3, but in another map it might be metatile 1. And what we have to do is have a lookup for each map that says, okay, in this map it's this metatile, but in the set of all the possible metatiles that are shared, it is some other metatile. And then by doing that, that will give us, let's see, metatile lookup will give us the actual metatile index, and then what we want to do is we want to multiply that by these tiles are, what are they? They're 2 by 2 now, so we want to multiply by 4. That'll give us our offset into the metatile definition. Transfer X to A. Oh no, it's already in A. Load A. Transfer A to X. That. So that should give us. So we're going to get the. We're going to take the tile. We're going to load it into X. We're going to use that to find which metatile in the set of metatiles we have. Multiply by 4. To offset it by the number of tiles per metatile, put that into X so we can then look up in metatiles, which I believe is our actual metatile content. Yeah, that looks correct. Yep, that looks correct. Our actual metatile content, we will load the first byte there, and then we're going to load X with 0. So that should give us the same result now, but having loaded it from transfer A to X. What? What am I doing wrong? Oh, right. You can't tell it how many shifts you want it to do. You have to do it twice. Sorry. Thinking of higher level programming languages. 1123 metatiles. Is it because it's all caps? What? Right. Because it's a label, not a variable. Anyway. See, this is what happens when you're away from it. I'm hoping to accelerate my my development progress here and code a little bit more frequently, because I am trying to get things done a little bit faster. Okay, so that looks like it worked, and we can prove that that worked by also trying to increment X, and that should give us the next byte, which would be the second second tile, which would be the top right corner of that block there. Yep, that's looking good. I guess the last thing we could do to test this is to say that, you know what, the background tile we want is background tile 2. Let's see what would happen if we do that. This guy, and then let's just make sure that I'm not just accidentally getting something that looks reasonable. Okay, so that's metatile 2, which is the water, and then metatile 3 would be the solid block of color. All right, let's see. We should get just solid blocks. Yes. Okay, cool. So that's looking like that's working as expected. All right, so we're going to go back to metatile 1 and load that into our BG tile. So now BG tile is... let's rename this, because I want to rename this to something that's a little more meaningful. So BG... Do we use BG counter at all? We don't. So let's get rid of that. Let's call this BG loop metatile. BG loop metatile. BG loop metatile. All right, cool. So that should build. Great. I have a whole bunch of these PPU viewer windows open. Excellent. All right. So now... I believe this will... Did we set it back? No, we're still at this and didn't rebuild it. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So we don't need to do the X increment here anymore. What we should be doing now is actually properly handling the metatile positioning. So let's think about how we can do that. So the way that this has got to work at this point is that the first time we go through, we're going to be alternating 2, 3, 2, 3, if the metatile is 0 through 3, right? So the first set of tiles we load will just be 2, 3 alternating, and then we're going to load 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, etc., right? And then we're going to go back to 2, 3. So I think there's actually a pretty easy way we can do this, thinking about this. We start with, this is actually kind of cool. This might work really well. So what we can do is we can have a tile value from within the meta tile that we want to use, right? So we start off with the tile, and I'm gonna I'll do this in binary so you see where I'm going with this. So we'll start off with the value set like this to 2. And then what we'll do with each iteration is we'll do an OR A with 1. Sorry, an exclusive OR with 1. That's what I meant, right? And so every time we do that, we're going to get, what that's going to give us is 2, and then 3, and then 2, and then 3, and then 2, etc., right? Because the exclusive OR is going to be first setting the first bit to 1, and then back to 0, and then back to 1, and then back to 0, right? And then after we go to the next row, we can just do an exclusive OR on, so next row we do an exclusive OR 2, and that will flip this bit so that it's either 1 or 0 again. And that will give us the alternating pattern, and that's actually all we have to do, I think. So where would we store that? I'm not being super efficient in some ways about the memory usage, and that's okay. I'm not overly worried about that yet. We will, I'm sure, hit constraints with the memory, but here I'm going to redefine something called BG tile, because this will actually be the background tile. So I'm not overly concerned about the memory constraints yet, because yeah, we have limited memory, but you know, so one of the things that hopefully you've learned from watching what I've been doing this whole time is that if you spend too much time trying to account for cases that don't exist yet, or that you can't actually justify concretely will exist in your code, that you spend a lot of time building stuff that doesn't make the project go faster, or isn't necessarily even useful. Not to say that it wasn't useful for learning things, but ultimately, I think we could have saved some time by not building some of the stuff that we built and focusing more on getting the gameplay code going. But, you know, I mean, this is, again, a learning process, this whole thing, for myself as well as everybody who is watching this, and so, you know, I think it's a valuable lesson to see in real life. So that mumbling aside, we can store this into BG tile, and that gets us, oh no, that's not what I wanted. So that's the value 2 stored there, and then where is our, we were just looking at this. So that's stored at BG tile, and then we go through here, and then populate single tile. This is, okay, so then what we need to do is we need to clear the carry. We'll transfer A to X in a second, right? So we're going to clear the carry, add with carry, BG tile, And then we're going to transfer A to X. Then we're going to load A with BGTile. And then we're going to exclusive OR 1. And we're going to store that back into BGTile. And that's going to give us our alternating 0, 1 pattern. Right? Oh, the dog. Alright, so, and then, once we have finished with a row, how do we know we finished with a row? Okay, because we've populated an entire... Oh, you know what? Okay, hold on a second. This isn't going to work exactly the way I wanted it to work, because what we were doing here is assuming a single tile, and that won't work exactly. So that's okay. Let's do this. So get rid of that. We have A. We're going to store A into BGTile. Let me think about this. So we have our metatile lookup. We have our offset into the metatiles. So now at this point, now that we have our offset into the metatiles, let's see, BGTile is what we're going to do. It's what we're going to do with X. No. Yes. Actually, we'll probably use that for... we'll use that with Y to offset into the metatiles to store the value of the tile that we want to use when we store that into the new tiles array here. Right, so, okay, so we transfer A to X, which is good because that's going to be our lookup into the metatiles. So now we need to, well, we're going to transfer A to Y, right, because we're going to use this as our lookup. And then wondering if we have to even do, yeah, we do need BGTile. So we're going to load it. All right, so we load that, we store it, right? Then what we're going to do is we're going to transfer A to Y, Y to A. We're going to clear the carry. We're going to add with carry our BGTile. Then we're going to transfer that back to Y because we need it for the next one. Then we're going to load A with BGTile and do our exclusive OR with 1. And that's going to get us our alternating pattern. We're going to increment X, we're going to compare it, and then when we're done, we're going to load BGTile, and we're going to do our exclusive OR with the value 2, and then we're going to store that back into BGTile. Should store that back here as well. So we have two operations, right? We're flipping the bit for the new tile, and then we're flipping the bit for the new row. Except that I want to do this after the branch, like that. And maybe we've got it. Let's see. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Thinking about it now, I was concerned. It's pretty straightforward, but I've messed it up. I was concerned that it wouldn't work, but I've just made a mistake here. So let's see. So we're loading. Let's see. We're loading the metatile lookup, and X. We're shifting. We're transferring A to Y. That's our lookup into metatiles. This is X. So it's right. It's partially right part of the time, at least in that we're looking at the right spot, and then we're loading. Oh. Okay, yeah. So what we should probably do. Yeah. Okay. Load A, BG tile. No, clear carry, add with carry BG tile, and then transfer A to Y, and then load A, BG tile. We'll do all of this here because the first time through we gotta set it up right. Because we're just gonna load it here and then. Could we do this within this loop? I guess we could do that in that loop too. Well, we want Y to be set properly to start off with. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's not going to work because we need to have we need the base. That's right. I wasn't thinking about that 100% clear. So we need the base tile. We need the base tile, and then we need the offset, which is what BG tile has in it. So let's do that. Let's store A. I don't think we need. Yeah, let's do that. So store A into temp. That's our base. Temp has our base offset. No, not yet. Not there. There. This is our base offset. Then we're adding to it and putting it into Y, and that's good. And then we're going to load it, and then we're going to store it there, and then we're going to load Y with temp. That's going to be our base offset, and then we're going to clear the carry, add with carry, BG tile, transfer it back to A. Why am I doing that? Just load A with that, so we don't have to do the extra transfer Y to A. Load A, clear carry, add carry, BG tile, transfer A to Y. Then we do our bit flip increment. Yes, that should be good because now we are starting at our offset that we calculated here. And then we are adding whatever the value of BG tile is, which will be doing the whole bit flip thing. Okay, let's see if that fixes it. I think that'll get it. All right, so that's better. We're getting the bottom of the metatile, but we're never flipping over to the top. And I assume that it is because of something that I am doing wrong. Let's see. Branch not equal to populate single tile, otherwise it should fall through to here. Load this, flip that bit, and then process map mode. Process map mode is that. This is process single tile. What am I missing? If it's repeats, load a store background mode. Oh, do I have this somewhere else? No. Do I? Set new row update. Repeat scrolling process. What am I missing? Load background mode compared to repeat scroll. Not equal process map mode. Otherwise, it goes into here. Set up new row. Store metatile flag. Jump skip row process. Oh, we're never updating. We're never updating. Well, that's ridiculous. Okay, so that's why that's not working. I skipped the whole part. Why didn't anybody tell me? Flip the bit for the new row. Yeah, that's all fine. But now we're going to do the same thing, essentially. Let's see. So we don't need to do any of this stuff, but we do need to do this. So we could call this part here load new tile row. And basically what we would need to do here is, let's skip row decrement. So then this needs to go to load new tile row, right? Because we don't want to skip the row process here. We've updated, we're telling it that the row has been updated by setting the metatile flag, and then we're jumping to load new tile row, which will deal with all of that, and then go to skip row process. So that should fix that problem. That should make that work by loading the other half of the metatile, I think. The rest of this looks reasonable. The subtraction here is wrong because it doesn't take into account the fact that at address 2000, we need to loop over to the other name table in order for this to be correct again. Really? I mean, it seems okay. Is it a bad comment, or have I just not hit that part yet? Let's see. Oh, cool. So that's neat. That means it's partially working. That is pretty cool. All right, let's fix that. That's surprisingly decently easy to fix, because the problem here is that the problem here is just that that bit is wrong in the first bit. It's got to be reset to 0 every time. So let's just set this to 1. We'll do an AND of 1 0. So sorry, not that. Not that. I'm thinking in bits and binary bits. So let's AND it with 2. So if the second bit is set, then the value remains, and bit 0, the first bit there, bit 0, the first bit, whatever you want to call it, that sets the value of 1, gets reset to 0, and then we do the exclusive OR to flip the bit if we need to, and then that should stop it from doing the alternating pattern like it was doing there. Yes, and now the attributes are wrong, but we are actually displaying an entire metatile in the scrolling mode correctly. So we'll have to fix that. But we will do that next time, like I said, because I wanted to keep this one short since it's the first one. First one back here. There's a way to show, right, or no? Highlight tile updates, but it's not actually changing anything. It would be cool if there was a way to force it to show it even if it was not actually changing, but simply being modified. But anyway, let's see. I mean, this seems okay, and I don't think it's modifying the attributes or any of the other name table data incorrectly. Everything, that all looks good to me. What's the deal, past Mike? Maybe this was a bad comment that's no longer relevant. Let me think about that for a second before we wrap up here tonight. This will be a relatively short one, only about 45 minutes, but we got the metatile loading. So repeat scroll process. Decrement the row. Okay, load scroll Y. And it. Branch if not equal. So if it's not a factor of 8, then skip the row decrement. Otherwise, right. That means we're now going to the next row. So subtract to the screen mem. Yeah, you know what? This isn't true anymore because we added this check screen mem call. So that is actually correct now, because this is checking to see if we wrapped or not and then fixing it. So yeah, that comment is no longer good. Cool. So yeah, in the live stream on Friday, we will take a look at getting the attributes to update along with these tiles now. Well, you know what? One thing I do want to fix though. Let's see, this is set to 2, but it's not using the right value. Why is that? Let's think about that. BG tile is set to 2. What I mean is when we actually start the repeating part of the pattern, you can see that it's starting at the top of the metatile instead of the bottom of the metatile, which is what I wanted to do. The first row that we write, we're saying, okay, we're using metatile 1, and we want to start at the second row. And let's look. Load new tile row. We're doing an exclusive OR of 1 on BG tile. I mean, by all accounts. Oh, wait a minute. Am I... It's our base offset. We're adding BG tile there already. Am I... Wait a minute. So that's our initialization to make it 2 to start in the second row. What would happen if I made it 0? Is nothing going to change? Is it not taking that into account properly? Let's find out real quick here. Interesting. That's what I wanted it to do, but it seems to be working backwards. So if I make this 0, let's walk through this real quick. If I make this 0, put it into BG tile, we are loading X with the BG loop metatile. We're then looking up the actual metatile we want. We're shifting it by 4. And that is our base offset. So in this case, our base offset will be the value 59 in hex, so hex 59. So we're going to store that in temp, and then we're going to clear carry, and we're going to add BG tile, which will be 0 to it. And then we're going to transfer A to Y. And then we're going to transfer... Is it possible that the screen mem... I wonder if the screen mem position... I wonder if this is why this was here. Because while it didn't look right before, I think it's maybe skipping an update. Oh, you know what? No. This is wrong too. Yeah, this is wrong too. But there is something that should stick. So we don't need to do this, but we do need to check the screen memory to see if we need to wrap it around. That's what we're missing. I'm almost 100% positive on that, because basically what happened is we reached the top of the screen, and yeah. So we reach the top of the screen and we want to update the memory of the background with the bottom of the metatile, but we're not doing that. Wait a minute. But then why is it not? Why did that not reverse the thing that fixed it in the first place? That. Now, see, I thought that was... Let's take a look at what screen mem is pointing at that point in time. I thought I understood what was happening there for a moment, but then I was wrong. So, repeat scroll. So there, so we will hit the breakpoint and reload. So when we hit the point where we start doing the repeat scroll, we'll break in and take a look at what's going on. All right, so the screen mem right now, screen mem is at 86 is the address, it looks like. So 8, 6. So and what's screen mem plus 1? 87. Okay, so 22. So 4022. No, 2240. What is it? 2240 sounds more reasonable based on what I'm seeing here, although it is not a address that we want to be using. Because let's see, where is that? That's 22. Oh no, it's a 22. That's 2220. 2240 is here. So we've, okay, so that's been updated. Oh, okay, so we're overwriting. That's really funny. So we're overwriting the last top row of the tiles that were there already. So this does need to be there to skip the past the top row that we had already, the last row that we had already updated of the regular tiles. Okay, and then screen mem is now at, let's see, what did I say? It's 86. So 86, that's 2240. But that's where it was last time too. Which it should be, it should have, what? It should not be there anymore. 2240. It should be at 2220. Except that load a screen mem +1 decrement this. Really? Wait a minute. Did I reload? Did I rebuild this? Oh, okay. The breakpoint is at the wrong. Okay, so it hadn't gotten to that point yet. Okay, good. All right. Sorry, I didn't realize that the breakpoint was at a different spot in the code. So what does that look like? Okay, so now that's updating that. But I guess. All right, so I think what the... That's interesting. So what must be happening is... Oh, wait a minute. You know what we're not doing? We're not setting the metatile flag to let it know... that it needs to load some new data. Are we? I don't think we are. And so it's just skipping that row, which is why it looks like it's not working. Without setting the metatile flag, then it will not know that it needs to actually load that row into the background. Yeah, okay, so that's what I was expecting to see. So, sorry, I stopped it real quick. So now we can see we've got the top of the metatile, which is because we are using the value 1 here instead of the value 2, saying that we want to start at the bottom row, or tile 2 in this. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So we want 2, 3, and then 0, 1. So that's what I was doing originally, and it looked like it was kind of working, but then I realized it wasn't because of all this stuff that we went through. So it looks like now we should be good. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now it's loading the bottom properly, and it's alternating properly, and the memory updates to the background are correct, and we are actually loading metatiles. So now in the next stream, we will start loading. We'll start loading the attributes too, and this will be a lot easier to load the attributes because they are going to be just the one attribute set for the entire metatile, rather than what we have to do with the actual scrolling, where we've got to set different attributes for different metatiles that are loaded. So it should be, relatively speaking, easier to do because we're just loading row by row by row by row the attributes for that metatile. So, as always, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can reach me on Twitter at Clearvis. I am on Nintendo Age as Zelius, and that's on the Discord chat as well. If you have any questions, feel free to join in the Discord. A lot of great people there besides me who can answer your questions. And of course, feel free to ask questions on the video on YouTube. You know, lots of people ask questions. I try to get back to everybody as quickly as possible. It's great to see people, interested in what's going on and engaged in this and really liking programming for the NES. And I definitely want to encourage you to keep going. And and if you have questions, ask. And if I don't know, I'll find somebody who does. But yeah, so have a great night. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you Friday on stream. All right, thanks. Have a good one.